Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vijay, and I appreciate you all joining in today. I'm an account executive based out of Dallas, Texas. Uh, and I really appreciate you all joining in today's session on the data migration tool for Dynamics 365. Let me take a moment to introduce you to Covenant first. So Covenant is one of our strategic partners, and we have Mike from Covenant, who is the business application practice manager, and will be leading today's session. We will be recording today's session, so the link will be available to you to refer again or share with someone who you think may have missed today's session. Mike, over to you, sir, and you can share your screen as well.
Thank you, BJ. Um, I appreciate everyone taking the time out of your day to attend. Uh, the topic today is upgrading to Serum Online. I'm sure if you've taken some time out to attend this, you're either thinking about doing an upgrade or you're in the process of it and are seeing that it is a very large process of going from on-premise to online. So hopefully we've got some discussion points, and hopefully we have some possible ideas and thoughts that you haven't thought of before. So Covenant, we have multiple practices. We align with Microsoft very well, and our practices complement each other through the different places. So we have a modern workplace that has Office, Azure, SharePoint, data analytics for Power BI, SQL Server. We got the business applications, which that's the group we're in today, and that covers the Dynamics 365, the customer engagement, the finance and operation, and ultimately the Serum data migration. We have a software team, and we also offer managed services. We have 24/7. We have proactive and reactive services that we offer. So some of our clients, if you're in the St. Louis market, will look very familiar. AB Mari, we've got Fabic, Hussman, RGA. Some of these are national, some are international companies, and some are just local to St. Louis. So we cover a wide range of clients, all of varying sizes and degrees of what level they engage Covenant in any of our practices and or the business applications team. So what it boils down to is, why is this push to move to Serum Online? I think part of this stuff is to keep your sales processes up to date, to stay competitive in the fast-paced world, dealing with current out-of-date systems that are no longer supported. We're upgrading a Serum 4.0 environment that they're having lots of problems. Technologies, incompatibility based upon an older version. And obviously, if you're on a newer version, getting some of the new features and functionalities that are only offered in the online version. So these are some of the main reasons why people are looking to go online. So what we're going to kind of cover today is some challenges, some risk, and then talk about some tools that are out there. So what are some of the challenges? Where do you start? We've got resources, issues. If you're trying to do this yourself with your internal team, or working with the business, or working with the PMs, all of them have standard and regular work that they're doing, and now you're trying to pull them away for a large project on top of that. Servers and tools. What kind of additional servers do we need to perform this migration? What kind of tools are available to us? If you've started this process, you're finding out that you really need some core and deep knowledge of CRM beyond just knowing, how to program in it or work around it. Your core knowledge becomes super critical in this challenge here. Then you're looking at performance. You've got maintenance windows you have to deal with. So how fast can I move this data? When I'm moving it, how accurate can I keep it? and things like this. So a lot of that becomes a question because, do I write my scripts to move everything at once? Do I move everything and then have some kind of thing running in the background to keep everything updated? So there's a lot of decisions around this to be made, not only from performance, but, again, looking at, we've got 24-hour or 24/7 customers, and they only have a 3-hour maintenance window that they can do every other week. Well, to perform this upgrade, to turn it off and turn the new system on, we were challenged to hit that window. We've got other ones that we can take it down for a weekend. Can we complete the data migration in a weekend? Then you got this upgrade versus enhancements. It's real simple. If I just upgrade in place, what's involved with it? I can do this upgrade. I can move my data over and kind of have, what we've kind of coined as a term is like for like. If I'm doing enhancements in it, now I'm changing more from just going from on-premise to online. I'm actually changing this more into an ETL process. And, where does that stop? If I make all these enhancements, do I have to make database changes? Do I have to make schema changes? Now do I have to account for that as I move the data over? Are there some enhancements I can make that won't affect any of that? So there's plenty of challenges out there. So, and then one of the biggest parts is kind of going down through this is what you don't know. If this is the first time through this, if you're performing this and it turns out to be the first time, you're learning a lot of things that you didn't know and having to repeat a lot of processes, and that can be very time consuming, changing timelines and those things as you discover a new piece that you didn't realize before and trying to figure out how and where that fits into the work you've already completed. So another big item is your risk. There are many, many risks out there. But, some of the main ones is technology. Does my team have the right technology and tools available to them? My resourcing needs. Can I get the number of developers for the time frame that I need? Customizations. Can and what falls into the customizations out there? So I've got all these customizations. If I'm not on at least Serum 2013, I'm probably going to have to upgrade my JavaScript. I'm going to have to update my plugins. So what happens with those? And then really the overall level of effort. When you first look at it and start looking at it, you think, this doesn't look complicated. I've seen a lot of people come up and say it's not really complicated, but when you get into the process, they start seeing that snowball effect where it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's like, so when you're starting the project off, coming up with the right level of effort to complete the project, it's very, very challenging at that point and produces a lot of risk. And during a project like this, you definitely want to be doing risk management to minimize those. So let's start looking at tools. So you see this great big ugly diagram off there to the right hand side. So this is an ERD. So basically it's a layout of the database and how everything connects inside of that database. And that looks pretty daunting, a lot of lines, and every one of those, when you're doing a upgrade, you have to account for every one of those lines that are in this picture. And just to put this in perspective, this is only one entity with out-of-the-box items. This is only the activity. So then when you start looking at the account has this, the contact has this, the opportunity, the case, you start seeing how big this really looks. So one of the first tools out there is Scribe. If you haven't seen or heard of Scribe, Scribe came out at the beginning of CRM, and it has a lot of different connectors, but one of them is to Dynamic CRM. And the nice part about Scribe is they got a starter pack. You come up there, you purchase Scribe, and then you install the starter pack, and it has a lot of the core entities that you need to do. Not all of them, but it's got none of your customizations. So you'll need to go down through and add in the additional entities, add in the additional forms, and work with it that way, and making sure that you're dealing with, the orders that data needs to move in. Because, one of your big challenges is, I'm getting ready to load my data. I have an account out there. The account has a primary contact. If I upload the account and the primary contact doesn't exist, I can't make that link for that primary contact. But then the problem gets to be is the contact also has an account associated with it. So you see the secular relationship out there, and how do you account for that? And those things all need to be accounted for as you're moving your data over. So another tool that's out there is Scribe. SSIS. SSIS is a great tool, and they've got an add-on that you can go out there called Kingsway Soft Adapter, and they have an adapter that goes straight to Dynamics. What is really nice about that is if you've got people that are familiar with SSIS, an internal team, they can work with their internal knowledge. And SSIS, or actually the Kingsway Soft also has a starter pack, which helps. But, between Scribe and SSIS, the only thing these guys move is the data. And we know that Serum is much, much more than the data. So you start doing a little bit more research, and the next thing that you find that's out there is in the Microsoft App Store. There are several apps out there that Microsoft offers, and similar to SSIS and Scribe, they move the data too. But the nice part about the ones out there in the Microsoft Store or App Store is that they're a little bit more intelligent. So you don't have to come up there and start identifying and mapping out and adding in these other parts. It's a little bit more, runs off of the metadata, and a couple of them, not all of them, will come up there and say, oh, here's this entity, I'm going to come to this entity and do the mappings and do all that for you. Now, the one downside to these items from the Microsoft App Store is that they're much slower. The fastest one out there moves 8 records a second. So you can start seeing how long it's going to take to move a terabyte of data, 2 terabytes of data, 3 terabytes of data. So if you've got a large database, you can start seeing how those come into play. So now if that performance doesn't meet your need or kind of gets you to where you need, you're back to a custom application. Now you can control your performance based upon the server and a lot of different factors here. But now you're out there picking up the part where you're coding for each entity that you have out there, each relationship, and getting all that information out there. So Scribe and SSIS would probably be, pretty short time frame getting it done. It requires a little bit more of a developer going in there. The Microsoft App Store, these tools are designed to kind of be self-learning and self-evident. So you're not going to need all the learning out there. You just get out there, turn them on, and hopefully everything starts moving through and flowing through. The thing is you got to allow enough time to let those run, and they couple of them still have a way to keep things in sync as they're live. So that takes your maintenance window down to turn one off, move to the other one. Plenty of testing and validation. Custom app, obviously, if you got the resources and the time, is probably your most ambitious one. But if you've got the resources and people available, can work and complete that task. But we know that. So if we come back up here and we look at this agenda, we have the challenges, the risks, we got the tools, we got Scribe, SSIS, the Microsoft App Store, and the custom applications. What if there happened to be an easy button? Something that kind of did what the custom app did, what the Microsoft App Store is doing, the Scribe, and all this, and then still more, because none of the ones above deal with your metadata. So you create a new custom entity. These don't create that new custom entity in your new environment. You have all these custom fields. They don't go create those. And if you're doing that manually, there is the chance of a typo, creating a field wrong, and having to go back and forth. They don't move users over. Well, they don't move the users over, but they'll do a mapping with users. They don't move security roles. They don't move teams over unless you come in there and actually do that. And that becomes very complicated getting the timing right. None of them move your personal information. So if you've set up personal views, you've set up charts and dashboards, and then you started sharing those. None of those other tools out there handle that. So okay, so what happens is we've created a data migration tool that takes your on-premise system and will build out that schema system. It'll build out the security roles. It'll build out the teams. It will build out all the other items. It will move the users, security roles, the sharing, all that data, and then finally it will move the Serum data. And what we don't do is kind of move the Serum forms and that over, because most of the times those forms aren't going to move over. And in many cases, if you've done upgrades online, if you've dealt with this in the past, and with the forms constantly changing, you could be moving a legacy style form over or a form that doesn't work. So we've made the conscious decision that we want to rebuild the forms. And the nice part about that is it gives you the chance to look at the forms, and in the old systems, the inline editable grids used to be code that would be put in place or grids or inline editable grids. Some of this stuff is now handled out of the box. It gives you a chance to revamp the forms with the new functionality and the new technology, business rules, business processes, calculated fields, roll-up fields, and all those. And we we do the heavy lifting. And that allows you to focus on the items that are really important to you. And we know the items that are important are what the users see. So you get to focus on the forms. You get to focus on UAT, QA, the testing, making sure that everything is accurate. Our tool can get you into creating forms in a matter of days from the contract being signed. And the other nice part is our tool moves thousands of records a second versus 8 records a second. We have moved 3 terabytes in under 48 hours. And if you're familiar with Dynamics, it's not bulk operations. You can take 1 million records, but you got to insert each one individually and work on it. But allowing you not to worry about all the other details, but focusing on the core items that are going to make or break the project in the end. The data is going to come across. It's going to be accurate. You're going to have all the users. The big part is now mapping the users. So one of the huge challenges that come into play is if Mike Busby is a user in the old system, but he's disabled because he left the company, guess what? You're not going to have him as an active user with a license assigned to do a direct mapping. So we'll allow for a remapping of inactive users so that they don't come over to the system out there as kind of a hanging record and assigned to generic people or things like that. So what happens is it allows you to focus on that and get into the testing and the UAT very quickly. So with this data migration tool, we kind of offer this in 2 flavors. One's the professional services. we start off with a very short engagement, 2 weeks. We get with your team and we gather the scopes and requirements, and from there we can come back to you with a schedule and a budget for the upgrade. We've done enough of these that we've got some templates that help us get to these points. We also offer a DIY version of this, where if you've got your own development staff that can upgrade your JavaScript to the current endpoints and upgrade your plugins, provided you're on older endpoints. If you're not, they're going to come over and work the same. But if you've got your team that can build the forms out and those kind of things, we offer this tool where we get in there and we just do the configurations of it and run it as you need it to get done. So you get to utilize your own team without being tied to our team and our professional services going down through this. So we try to make this as flexible as possible. So just a little bit about our tool. It's an Azure-based system, and it runs from our servers out there that we have scaled to meet the performance needs and run times. You know, the big thing is your CRM, we would just need to have access to so that we can then be able to provide, so that we can read the data out of. That's all we would need, is read access to it, and then we can push the data out to the new environment. So again, Covenant Technology, we do Power BI, Microsoft Azure, Office 365, Modern Workplace, SharePoint, and CTP services. The Dynamics practice, we're a little bit different in our practice. We have 2 practice leads. David Friedrichs is the business side of it, and I'm the other practice lead, but I'm also the technical side of our practice. We would definitely welcome the opportunity to have a conversation with anybody on the team or anyone out there that wants to learn more about this. Are there any questions?
Hey, Mike. Would it make sense, and maybe could you take a moment to talk briefly about a couple of the applications where we've used this, from a order of magnitude and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So we've ran this on several clients. Obviously, a client with a very small database, you can probably export and move over very simply. So it definitely works with a little bit larger database. In our case, we've done it with an approximately 3 terabyte system that we had a maintenance window of just about 24 hours, which the tool to move them over took us 48 hours to run. So this tool on very large databases, we have the ability to do a delta process that only takes hours to run. So we ran everything the week before. During that entire week, they were able to do internal QA of the system to make sure it was accurate. The delta process was then running every couple of hours, keeping the system updated. So the part that was very nice about that is they had a live image of their production environment. They're able to QA it, the production, before they released it to everybody on, for the following Monday. But it gave us the chance to know everything was good. So the nice part is during that maintenance window, we'd already ran the delta process many times. We ran the delta process. We put the one system in read-only, turned the other one on, and that was it for our cutover. And if anyone's done cutovers, you know how those can be. They don't always go as planned, and you run a lot of check calls. We just got done doing one a few weeks ago, and it was a little bit smaller database. It was about 1.5 terabytes, and that would only take us about 24 hours to push on through. So we ran that through. Based upon the customer, we had check-in calls every 4 hours to make sure that the data was running smoothly, and then once it was up, to get the team in there to QA. So it was a pretty long weekend for the team, but there was no, the stress in it was pretty low. I think a lot depends upon the culture of the company. Some companies want to have a lot of SMEs come in and check and validate. So on both these projects, a little bit from, what's important to you side of it. One company took the opportunity to redo all their training material, to update that. And then as part of this, because it didn't involve the data, not only did they do that, but they're an international company, decided that they wanted to release it with multi-currency and multi-language. Well, they realized that their current data was going to stay in all US dollars, but then we were able to open it up. So as they're releasing it, again, that was a simple enhancement that, again, they focused and gave their users a really nice new features, and especially the multi-language. We translated and added all in, and we were able to accomplish that. We've spent quite a while UATing in each country. So the nice part is what that does is, again, allows us to go back and focus on what's important and bring in some important enhancements as part of the project. And that's what you're focusing on, not worrying about, developers sitting out there and writing all this code and not, I have a bug, what's it going to take to fix it? And, those kind of things. Similar with most of those tools that you see out there, it's when you add in those transformation processes, that's when even the daunting task of moving it to online becomes that much more critical and involved during those times. Was that what you were looking for there, David?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks a
Any
lot,
other
Mike.
questions? Oh, sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thanks a lot, Mike. Was just asking the same thing. If there are any open questions or if there are any other doubts that we can address at this stage. All right. So looks like there are no more open questions, but do appreciate Mike for this excellent presentation. Like I said, we are recording this session and we will be sharing the link with you after the presentation. So feel free to reach out to me, to your dedicated account executive, or to Covenant team if you have any doubts, and we'll be happy to address. But appreciate all of you joining in today's session, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jay. And thanks, Carson.